And welcome back to the Black Psychologist Podcast, episode 26. We are back from some well-deserved and needed time off after the holiday. We are doing good. We're looking good, and we're here to pod. So I am here, one half of your humble and gracious host, your clinician here for your listening pleasures, Dr. Kyle Osborne. I am him, and he is me. And I'm never here by myself. This guy that I'm with, he's a real go-getter. Let me tell y'all, man. Like, listen, he sells ice in the winter. He sells fire in hell. He's a hustler, baby. He can sell water to a well. Dr. Jason Coleman, how are
Oh
you, good
man,
brother?
I'm good. I'm good. How you feeling, bro?
I'm good, man. I'm good. We back. Took a couple weeks off, man. We needed some R&R for the holiday. How are you feeling, man?
I'm good, man. I feel rested. Definitely needed that break, that good time off. Ready to get back at it. But definitely still appreciative to everybody that's been supporting, and ready to get back at it, bro. What about you?
Absolutely. Yeah, man. Same here. Took some time off, had the holiday, so a couple long weekends in there. Self care, that's something that we talk about a lot. Is not only do we promote it to our listeners and to our clients and our patients, but we have to practice it ourselves. Because if we're not in good health, in good form, then the people that we're responsible for won't be in a good position either. So it was good, man. It was chilling. Definitely enjoyed it. We need more 3-day weekends. We need to incorporate. I don't know who I need to write to or whatever, but we need more 3-day holidays and
Oh
short
yeah.
week. And shout out, also want to acknowledge that it is September, which is National Suicide Prevention Month. So we want to make sure that we advocate and we acknowledge and we observe that, because suicide is something that's very, very important, not just in our field, but just overall. We know there are a lot of people that are affected by suicide every single day, whether it's a family member or it's a friend, whether it's somebody they know or they've read about. So it's something that we're continuing to, advocate and observe. And if anyone does need help, if anyone's out there struggling, there are many places to reach out for. If you don't feel comfortable reaching out to a family member, there are hotlines, there are therapists, there are all these other different resources. So you're not alone in the struggle. Don't feel embarrassed. We know there's a lot of stigma that's attached to it. So that's something that we want to continue to just promote, especially not just this month, but every month, but more importantly, because we're observing it this month. So, we're going to continue to do that throughout the month. And also, we appreciate the feedback. Again, we're on episode 26, so we wouldn't be able to be here if it wasn't for your support, where you guys giving us feedback and watching the videos and listening on all the streaming platforms. So, again, thank you. Continue to like, share, subscribe. Any questions or statements or anything you have for us, the Black Psychologist Podcast at gmail.com. Hit us up, let us know. We love interacting with you guys. So, anything else before we could jump into it, Jay?
I mean, not really. You said it best. Just in terms of this month, in terms of the awareness. I mean, of course, we just want to encourage anybody, if they're struggling with anything, to just reach out, to somebody, for that support. Part of the reason why we do this is to kind of try to reduce the stigma around certain things, as well as to kind of just educate people and talk about events that are in the news. So if anybody is, of course, experiencing any, stress that's overwhelming, before you harm yourself, definitely reach out to somebody for support. And that's it. Leave it there.
Absolutely. So, like I said, we were off for a couple weeks, and so we got to catch up to some things, because some things went through, and we got to address them before we move forward. So, another year, another social media challenge. And for those that don't know what we're talking about the one and only milk crate challenge. All right. So this kind of took off as, late August, early September and throughout. And we saw a lot of interesting videos with some really interesting turnouts. So for those that aren't familiar with the milk crate challenge, it's a viral social media dare that involves individuals trying to climb up a stack of milk crates that are stacked in like a pyramid. And yeah, you've been a lot of people that have been trying this and not so great results. And we see some really disastrous wipeouts, to say it nicely. People have, have broken bones, ribs, head injuries, all the whole nine. So, something, I don't know if you've gotten this, Jay, but of course, when a lot of things like this take place, like, in the world, or things happen like on social media, because of our position, we tend to ask like, hey, Kyle, Jay, like, why does this happen? Right? Why do people do these things?
Right.
And so it was only right that we put it out there, right? We give our explanation of what goes into people who perform this stunt. So Jay, what's your take on the milk crate challenge? Why are so many people, or why were so many people attempting this challenge and experiencing these results that we were seeing so much of?
Well, I mean, listen. First of all, it's not new, right? First and foremost, even before the internet, people were doing things for attention, right?
Mhm.
Um, of course, not to insult anybody's abilities, but we've all seen like shows like America's Got Talent, all of these things, right? Which, right, whether you take the talent away or not, it's all about bringing people's eyes to, something that they haven't seen before, or something that's either slightly risky, dangerous, or whatever you want to call it, right? So,
Right.
um, with the internet, of course, it's all about going viral now. That type of attention, validation in the sense of, I'm not saying, all these people have low self-esteem. I'm not necessarily saying that, but that fame that goes along with that, whether that is being Instagram famous or whatever it is, right? So, you have that. And I think that's the allure right now. You know what I mean? Besides the fact that, I mean, just genuinely, like, it's funny, so it may kind of bring people together in that sense, like, something to do with your family, as long as you're relatively safe.
Mhm.
And it's not really new, right? If we think about it, because a couple of years ago, people were doing like the ice bucket challenge and,
Right.
the cinnamon challenge and all of that. So it's not really that new, I'll tell you one thing though. I did see like a couple of wipeouts. The kid, the singer, I think he's from, I don't know if he's from Canada or whatever, the Osiris or
Yeah,
okay,
yeah, yeah,
Osiris.
yeah.
He wiped out bad.
Yeah,
Um,
that joke, yeah. It was
Blueface,
vicious.
Blueface did it. He finished though. I think Blueface finished it.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, who knows if the crates were stuck together though? Who knows?
I don't know. It did look a little fishy, but I'm gonna
You know
give
what
him
I'm
a
saying?
try.
But listen, he got some athletic ability. I'm not, because I seen him put it on that boy in the ring. So I'm not gonna say he don't have athletic ability.
Right.
And then most impressive overall, I seen a sister do it in, it would had to be at least 2-inch heels, my brother.
I think she went. I think she was a Howard student.
Right.
I think
So
she was a Howard student. So shout out to y'all, man.
right. And I know that was real. So you know what I mean? Because I done seen some women, in the winter, run, you know what I mean, trying to, whatever, get into a function, a restaurant, whatever,
Yeah.
walking across crates in New York City or Hoboken, wherever, with heels. So I know that's real. You know what I mean? When the sister did it, but for real, you know what I mean? Like, it's, people do it for all those reasons. But if we being honest, like, sometimes it can actually translate into things that are really positive, like, especially if you get like celebrities that end up raising money and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that. So, it's not always bad, You got,
Nah.
excuse me, I got a little bit of a cough. But it's not always bad.
Yeah. I don't. When people have asked me, I mean, the main thing that I come up with, or that I use to explain, is that wanting to feel connected, right, and popular. Like you kind of alluded to that a little bit. Social media challenge give people the ability to feel like they're a part of something that's like bigger than themselves,
Right.
right? So, and it's like it promotes that sense of being connected, that sense of being part of a community. um and like you said, this isn't the first challenge. Like they had like you said, the cinnamon challenge, they had the ice bucket challenge. I think there was the Benadryl challenge a year or two ago.
Yeah.
And it's like these things gain momentum like quickly, like they take off. Like as soon as you see one video, then another video gets posted. And what happens is that like the feeling is intense of any of these individuals doing it, right? So like you said, it's a dare of who can make it up these steps, or who can make it up these crates and make it down. And like that somehow outweighs the feeling, or it trumps over the possibility of getting hurt. Because like you said, we've seen some disastrous falls. Like
Right.
we've seen people like getting falling on their shoulders, busting their ribs open, like, and that will outweigh like the risk, right?
Right.
Even though you've seen people take like these major nasty spills, people will say, you know what, I want to feel a part of this. I want to be connected to this. And it's like when you gain that popularity, whether you make it over or not, right? Because it looks like the nastier the fall, the more likes and laughs and emojis you're gonna get, right?
Right.
So when you start feeling that popularity online, like that boosts your ego, right? That makes you feel like even more value, like you mentioned. Like you don't necessarily have to have the low self-esteem, but like if you're getting those likes, you're getting that reaction, then that's hard to turn away from.
Right.
Right. That's really difficult for someone to be like, you know what, let me not try this challenge. Let me get my shine too. You
Right.
know, despite whether it's going to send me to the ER or not, like, let me go get it done too. And that's a powerful, powerful thing. Like anytime if there's an audience that's going to be able to give like that immediate reaction and that immediate feedback, like we're talking as soon as you post that video, you're automatically getting those likes, right?
Right.
You're automatically getting the lives. So like you're like propelled into some form of stardom,
And
right?
what do we know, right, about a behavior that's followed by a reward, right? It's more likely to be repeated, right? So
Absolutely. Especially if it's like by your friends, right? So as you see your friend do it and you saw like his IG start to blow up, you see his TikTok start to blow up, it's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do it too, because it's somebody in your peer group, whether you may know them or not. But if it's somebody like in your peer group or age group, then it's automatically deemed as acceptable, right? Because you're
right.
getting the laughs, you're getting all those other different things. So yeah, like that reinforces that behavior of like, you know what, it doesn't matter whether it's dangerous or not. Like, nah, this status, this matters to me. I'm gonna go out and do it.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, honestly, and that's kind of really the only place I draw the line is if it's gonna put you in physical danger or put somebody else in physical danger, then I mean, chill. You got to find another outlet. You know what I
right?
mean? But if not, then I think, and I think that was the case with the cinnamon. I don't even remember, but I think I vaguely remember people going to the hospital.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah,
Yeah, they
yeah.
were. Yeah, yeah, it was
I don't
choking,
even
all kinds of things. It
right.
was
I
wild.
don't even know why. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what was it behind it, but I know that was kind of getting dangerous, right? So that would be the only time I would be like, all right, you got to draw the line. But otherwise, I think, in terms of just, bringing people together in terms of something they could do, something that's slightly challenging, whatever. As long as it's not dangerous, man, I don't see why it's a bad thing.
I think you said something really important, right? Where you mentioned like the challenging aspect of it, because
Right.
sometimes it's the nature of the challenge that also draws people in. So you had people like, if you're able to do this, right, it gets you like, you get like a certain status or badge of honor, right? Just like how we gave props, we acknowledged this to the young lady who did it in heels. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, if you pull this off, like, oh, listen, this person
Yeah.
is the thoroughest of thoroughest. Like, listen, like, their athleticism slaps. Like,
But
seriously.
that's why I say, because to me it's like analogous to like the TikTok dances, like where you got families doing them.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you that's why I said in terms of the challenge, like it could really be a positive thing depending on what's being done. You know what I'm saying? Because that's kind of like something that you could spend your whole Friday with your family. That's family time,
Yeah.
communication, all of these things, that we try to teach families in terms of like, you know what I mean, social emotional learning activities, all these all of these things, right? This is what we're asking people to do, right? Is to communicate, connect, and all of those things. Learning to dance together, writing something, creating something together, that as a family or whatever. Those are all of those skills. So it can be, spun in a positive way and done in a positive way, if as long as it's not any like safety, issues.
Yeah, I've seen it take a life of its own, because like you said, it's turned into a family, or it's turned into friend, like a whole group thing. Like I saw one video where it was they did a gender reveal, right? Where the
Okay.
person ran up or tried to get up the crates, and like I guess when he fell, that's when it came out like blue.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And I figured there are more simpler ways to do a gender reveal, but whatever. I mean,
Yeah,
hey, I
yeah,
mean, he seemed like he was okay when he got up,
yeah.
but like you said, it starts to take on like a life of his own because people start to get creative with it, and it's just like, all right, then it kind of comes acceptable. Like, all right, you embarrass yourself on social media. My only again like reservation is like the people that are getting seriously hurt because like some folks are really they're getting sent to like the ER. Like even the ER visits have increased because of this, and that's where it's just like really have to be careful. But it's like you said, it's taken on a life of its own. And I got a question for you because it's also taken on conspiracy theories, right? Because
Right.
I've heard things where people are like, "Oh, well, the CIA is, they're putting the crates in the hood."
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it's it's hilarious. They
Yo,
like the
you already
stories that
know,
some of these
man.
things are coming up from. Like it's just so funny how it goes in so many different directions of like all these different theories that just don't make any sense. And but would you do the challenge though? That's what I have to ask you.
It depends on what surface, you know. It just because the fall is all that. I don't mind doing it, but like on what surface am I gonna do it on? Like if I was on like I would do it if I was on some like a playground type of surface. Like
Oh, you want like the soft mat type of you want that.
yeah, the soft mat, or you know how sometimes they have on those kids like jungle gyms that little like it's like the bark kind of stuff on
Yeah,
the
yeah.
ground. I
So
would
you
do
want
it
like
on that,
the bark
but
and
I'm
the
not
wood
doing it.
chips.
What'd you say?
You want like the bark and the wood chips. You want for all
Right.
that.
But I'm not doing it on like in like a parking lot. You can
What
forget
about
about
grass? What about grass? Because you putting safety precautions into it. I'm keeping it real. You gonna do it on
forget
grass?
about that. Forget
No,
about that.
no, forget about it.
What about you?
Absolutely not.
All right.
Bro,
Yeah.
listen, man. I don't. You listen.
We already know that you're not willing to risk that. You wouldn't even go on a dating app, so we know
Look,
you're not
man.
willing to risk that.
Listen. And I know as we've increased in age, we don't bounce back. Now, if I was 23, 24, yeah, I would take that grass fall. I would take it and get back up. Like, all right, cool. No, you know what happens. Like, you want to talk about taking time off for like vacation these past couple weeks? I do that challenge and I fall. Yo, we're out for a month. All
Right.
right, like that's that. I'm not recovering from that.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah,
it
you're right.
is. Yeah. So
Right.
nah, this is the awareness of my part. That's not gonna happen.
No, you're right. I am past the stage where I like purposely injure myself on purpose.
Yeah.
Like, nah. Put
Nah,
myself in those situations. Nah.
nah,
No.
not gonna do that. Yeah. So yeah, so that's the milk crate challenge. It's always, it's funny kind of thinking about it like what's gonna be next year's challenge, right? Because something's gonna come up, right? Like we had the milk crate challenge, they had the cinnamon thing. I think the younger kids were doing the detergent, the Tide or the
Oh my God.
yeah, the pod challenge that was extremely like just off left field. Like, so it's really interesting to think about what's going to be the next challenge for like next year. What's going to blow up. So I don't know. Whatever it is, I hope it's people are safe doing it. Again, I know these challenges get more and more extreme. So
Yeah.
again, like you said, it's just the safety aspect of it. But I don't know, Jay. I think you could do it, bro. I think you can make it across, man.
I mean, nah.
I'll root for you. I would bet on you. Don't worry about it. I got you.
Don't bet on me, brother.
All right. So now moving on to actual athletic events and athleticism. Sloane Stephens, who was the 2017 U.S. Open champion, uh, recently said that she received more than 2,000 messages um, of sexist, racist, and abuse and anger and frustrated, hateful comments by people that were upset by her loss earlier in the week at the U.S. Open. And so, what she decided to do was share some of these messages that she received. So, I'm going to read a couple of the messages. One of the messages said, I promise to find you and destroy your legs so hard that you can't walk anymore. Another message said, Fixer and corruption like you must be banned forever in jail. I hope you enjoyed your last moments on court today. And then she shared another message that had posted repeated clown and monkey emojis. So she said that this is among 2,000 messages that she got just after the loss.
Right.
So she shared that she's been doing her best to focus on the positive and with her, rely on her social support. But just, you know, getting and receiving this information, Jay, what's your take out of, an athlete um receiving something like this after a loss of a sporting event?
Um, well, listen, it's kind of like it's almost kind of like like related to what we was just talking about in terms of like this is one of the downfalls of technology, right? Unfortunately, is that it gives everybody like front row seat and like up close access if you allow it to you, right? Meaning like people can post at you, DM you, say horrible things to you. Um, and that would be, I'm not saying that would be okay, but it would even be different because I think it would be a lesser segment of the population that would do it if there was accountability attached to it,
Mm-hmm.
right? But the fact that you can do it behind a computer, behind your phone, it provides you with a certain amount of like anonymity where it's like, people just feel emboldened to say things that they wouldn't normally say, right? So instead of saying that I mean, I don't know how people express their disgust appropriately, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
something that you would say at a 1 or a 3 becomes a 6 or a 7 because nobody's looking. You know what I mean? It's kind of like how people behave in crowds, but now they can do that from their home, because you're behind your computer. So I don't want to say it's to be expected because you want to like have more confidence in people's like I guess integrity like moral
Some,
capacity.
some type of decency, right? Human
Right.
decency.
So I don't want to say it's expected, but in terms of just with the amount of people that are on social media and all of these things, if anybody who's in the public eye to a certain degree, you got to expect some of it. But you know, I mean, obviously, it's shameful when you send in somebody like when you have to take it to the point where you're not really talking about what they were doing on the court anymore, and you're sending them monkey emojis and stuff. Then obviously we crossed the line. So you know,
It's you know, social media has been great for a lot of different athletes, right? It's allowed them to connect. It's allowed them to flourish in the sense of, you know, marketing their brand, marketing themselves, becoming more intimate with their fans. And then, of course, there's the dark side of it, right? We all know that there
right,
are negatives of social media, and even the athletes, I'm sure, are aware that when you do open like a Twitter account or IG or whatever social media platform, that you know that yeah, you're entering a public domain that is gonna put you in a position of scrutiny, right? I'm sure they understand that that's gonna be par for the course. However, this is an extreme, right?
right,
When you've gotten to a point where now, like you said, you're sending death threats, when you're doing, hate, racism, sexist, all these other different types of abuses, like this is a totally different extreme, right? We
right,
all have the right to be upset, to be disappointed about a loss, right? We get invested, right? That's something that we learn and like what social psych, right? Where it's basking in reflected glory. So we understand that you view things differently when the person that you have investment in, or the team you have investment in, is winning. It's a
right,
we thing, right? It's we're doing great, we're going to the championship. And now when they lose, it's well, they are, you separate yourself.
right,
However, it's a different situation now where you're, like you said, you've crossed the line when you've taken a step forward, and now you're sending all types of death threats. You're sending talking about inflicting harm on individuals and things. And, this is what can negatively impact, someone's career and their in their psychological well-being. Like we've talked about earlier a couple months ago that, what Naomi Osaka is going through. Like she
right,
talked about her mental health in general. However, I imagine this is also a part of it, not just dealing with the media, but now you're dealing with people, like you said, that are able to throw shots from the shadows,
right.
and this is something you have to deal with. And so I just, you know, I can't imagine just how disheartening and how exhausting this is for you to go through this, like you said, because this has become commonplace. Even Sloane has said this, and other tennis stars have mentioned that this has become commonplace. And to me, like, that's a problem. Like, when then the point where you're just like, you know what, I've lost, so I already know there's going to be like 3,000-4,000 messages telling me X, Y, and Z and talking about harm and things.
Well, see, this is the thing. Even if there was a whole, if there was 3,000, 10,000 messages just saying like, yo, you stink, you should quit, blah, 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 blah. I mean, it's horrible, right? But we could say that kind of comes along with the territory, right? People that have an opinion, whether it's harsh or not, on what you're doing on the court, right? Problem I have is with the race, the stuff with the racial undertones, and then especially with the threatening of physical violence, right?
Mm-hmm.
Only because people are different. So it could be three of us that are doing the same thing. We all get the same three threats over the phone, right? On the text. I might hang up the phone and be like, yeah, whatever. You're not coming over here and doing anything to me. Hang up the phone and go to dinner and laugh at them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody else may feel a little threatened, call security downstairs, call a security guard, and then that makes them feel a little safe, call somebody to come live, sit with them, and then they can go about their day. Somebody else may not practice anymore,
Right.
not leave the house, right? Have nightmares, right? That's where it's really not okay, right? So when you start doing that, you don't know, because again, people are going to have different levels of vulnerability, to things like that based off their own history and experiences, right? So that's where it's more concerning to me, like the personal attacks in terms of the racist stuff, and then the threats of the physical violence because of the implications it could have. And then just in general, like, in terms of the internet, man, it's just, there's a lot of people that I think there's a opportunity for them to kind of like, miss it. There's a lot of like misdirected anger and, maladaptive expression of aggression on the internet, and again, it all comes back to people being able to kind of hide, for lack of a better term, we would call a lot of these people just cowards in real life, because they wouldn't say a lot of these things, to people because, they wouldn't want to hold that responsibility, right?
Right.
Of the person's reaction. But again, this is the bad side, but we always also got to talk about the other side, right? Because she did also talk about the support that she got. And who knows if that contributed to kind of the confidence that she's displaying, right?
Mm-hmm.
Saying, because she kind of seemed like not saying it didn't bother her, but she wasn't going to let it stop her, right? So maybe that had something to do with it too.
No, I'm happy that she was in a position and she felt comfortable enough, and I feel like this is also a form of strength on her part that she shared these messages, right? Because you have to be at a certain point of being comfortable with yourself, and then as she's showcasing, okay, this is what I'm experiencing. I think that's something that people take for granted in tennis, because a lot of times, okay, like you may have team sports where the team is getting, a part of the blame. Certain position players are assuming a lot of the responsibility and getting a lot of the blame. But tennis is solely on this particular person. So not only, is an individual, especially, you're losing, right? You have the loss itself on a major event, right? That's being broadcasted nationwide. And then when you have, these insults, this abuse that's being directed or hurled towards you, that's compounded on top of things. So I'm happy that she felt comfortable to say, you know what, this is happening. Other people may talk about it here and there, and they, of course, mental health has definitely been in the spotlight on this sport. But no, like, I'm happy that she was able to showcase and say, no, this is what's happening. This is what's getting directed at me. So one, it becomes more aware. Two, I'm hoping, I'm not sure, how likely this will happen, but some of these different tennis federations start to step in. Because, and I know, not only is it people that wouldn't say these same things, and it's, they're cowards and all these other different, but there's also a lot of these sound like bookies, right? A lot of these sound like people that were betting on the sport, or you're betting on these individuals, and now you're talking about, well, I'm gonna break your legs and the fixer and corruption. Like, no, like, you're frustrated because I didn't do as well as you wanted me to, because now you're not gonna get any money, or now you owe money.
You said the,
So you know what I mean? Like let's call it for what it is, right?
you said the
So
bookies. I wasn't
the
ready for
bookies,
that.
listen, the people that are, you know what I mean, that are out here betting, now you're not covering all these different things. This is where a portion of the frustration comes from, because now you're frustrated because you're in the hole, or now you're in the setback.
All right.
So, it's something that I'm happy that she was able to showcase, because, being vague always doesn't get the necessary reaction or attention from either, whether it be the tennis federation, or it be from some of these social media sites that are saying that, oh yeah, well, we're, keeping an eye out for abusive messages. And obviously you're not, if these are able to get through, right? You can't control people that are sending the messages, but as far as being able to filter some of these things, I feel like when you start to say, hey, this is what's coming through, then that awareness and hopefully can kind of spark some more different types of measures that can be put in place. But, I'm happy that she has that support. And like you mentioned, hopefully this also brings about some change and more awareness to the other players that can kind of start to build up, right? Because this is also what goes into your mental health toolbox of having that social support, right? Putting all these measures in, if you're going to be in a spotlight and you're going to be in a sport where this has unfortunately become commonplace, now we have to start putting in some measures where we are able to protect ourselves so it doesn't, impact us to the extent where, it impacts your career or you just health wise. So we'll see, man.
I mean, that's kind of where I would focus the resources and the effort is on the individuals, right, that are being impacted, and what are things they could do from their phones, right, or
Mhm.
internally to deal with those issues, right? Because trying to stop the messages from getting through is like, you know, impossible. Like, you know what I mean? It's just, it's just an impossible feat, and from where I'm sitting. So, good story though.
Yeah. So keeping it in the sports world, the not the university, the Texans chapter, NAACP, and students from the University of Texas recently filed for federal civil rights complaint over the University Texas Eyes of Texas song, right? So for people that aren't aware of the Eyes of Texas song, this is a song that if you ever watch any University of Texas Longhorns football team, do you ever see them during the school? They're the ones when they're holding this up and they're singing. That's the school song alma mater, and they're singing it and they're swaying back and forth and so on and so forth. So the reason why this federal civil rights complaint was filed was because apparently the song, the Eyes of the Texas song, premiered at a minstrel show in the early 1900s where students wore blackface. So after filing this complaint, despite its racially offensive and context and meaning, school officials stated that they're going to keep the song and as their alma mater, citing that the song has no racist intent. So they're going to go continue to move forward. The NAACP and the students that were anonymous in filing the complaint are going to continue to, escalate the matter. However, Jay, when this came across your desk, what were your thoughts about it?
All right. I mean, I know how I feel about it, but I also like I'm reading the article.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the school is like comfortable in a gray area. You understand what I'm saying? It's not gray to me. But for lack of a better term, it's like they're comfortable trying to sit in a loophole, and they're not, and they're comfortable with who they offend sitting there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I say that because obviously you read the article, so they went and did the investigation, and they couldn't definitively tie it to Robert E. Lee, right?
Right.
But what we know is that we know the song is like, in terms of the melody of the song, it comes after like I've been working on the railroad, people who know the history, who don't, should go and they do a history lesson, do a deep dive. But those type of songs, zippity doo dah, zippity yay, all of these songs were written in an attempt to sanitize the old antebellum South, right? So
Right.
we know that, right?
Mhm.
So the fact that we know that, and the people that go to the school know that, it's clear, and we look at the origins of the song, like you said, it's clearly offensive, right? But you have that, and then you have the power structure, right? So it's similar to the same fight people had over Confederate flags, right? Over monuments of Robert E. Lee. It's the reason why you have the football coach standing up saying, even with all of these things I just told you, right? And he's the coach, so he's known these things for years. We'll sing it proudly, right? Because at the end of the day, even if his best players are black players, he doesn't care if he pisses them off because the donors is what's more important, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he is a member of the group that has privilege. So in his mind, he probably feels like his black players, which probably bring all the money to the program in the first place, you know, they are lucky to be there. You understand? But this is what goes on. So we can have all of these factors in play, and then we have the coach who might be the most powerful Caucasian white voice on the campus saying we're proud, right, to sing it. And then you have black football players, black students in the NAACP saying, oh, again, our voices aren't being heard. So how many times we've heard this over and over again. So here we go, right? And that's why I said they're willing to sit in the gray area, because if you would have asked them why they're going to stick with the song, they're going to say, well, we did an investigation and we didn't definitively tie it back to who, right? So that's why I said they're comfortable sitting in the gray area, and they don't care who they piss off, because in their mind, the black people that they're pissing off don't have any power, and the students are going to keep coming to play for them.
That's right there, the key point. The students are going to continue to play for them. And I'm not putting this onus on the players. However, it's a sense of
not the players' issue.
Yeah. But no, it's not affecting, like you said, that structure, right? It's not affecting the bottom line as far as financially. And it's not affecting the football structure. Because like you said, if the coach were to see that, you know what, I'm going out here on these recruiting events and I'm noticing some of these top tier players that happen to be African Americans are like, no, I don't want to play for you because X, Y, and Z reason. And they're saying, hey, I don't want to come play for you because of that Eyes of Texas song, because I find that offensive. I'm going to go to this other school. Then this is what prompts reaction, right? This is what prompts, that domino effect of him then saying, hey, you know what? This is bad for business. Not because it's morally wrong, because we already know that, but it's because it's affecting the structure.
Correct.
And it's only the only students that seem to be affected by it. And again, I don't know this for a number, because I think there were some athletes, some student athletes that had an issue with it, but there's more strength in numbers. It's been a situation where they've made these minor adjustments for like the band, or they've made all these different adjustments for people that aren't comfortable with the song to say, well, hey, here's another song we're offering you, or you can, play this particular school song that's different. But it's not affecting, like you mentioned, the structure, right? And the players are going to continue to come to the school. And if that were to start to affect like the recruiting aspect of it, because again, that's what's generating the majority of the money for the school. You don't get star players or you don't get good recruitments because of this reason, then no change is going to come. Because and I know, unfortunately, until stories like this gain traction, or if sponsors start to pull out and say, hey, well, we're not going to do this, we're not going to do that, because I don't know the alumni or the donors, but I don't think, again, that they have any issues with it. But if sponsors start to pull out, and then you have some of the players that they're trying to, recruit, and they're like, no, I don't want anything to do with the school because of this, then that's why it stays the same.
But see, we've seen it already, right? And the proof, I'm not trying to be funny, but you see where the proof is, because you just follow the money. Right. And I'm just be very honest. It doesn't matter who's insulted, because it's the truth. The problem is you have people that are clinging on to meaningless traditions, hollow and meaningless traditions, right? In NASCAR, in these country clubs, Augusta, all of them, right? Meaningless traditions that were built on racism and essentially to keep us out, right? And when people challenge them because they're offended, right, they're going to cling on to the tradition and say, it's what we've always done, right? And this is the cycle that we're in, right? And luckily, the younger people, they have had the courage to say, we don't care, right? And we're going to go after your contracts, right? And that's the problem. And then you start seeing changes in NASCAR. Oh, nobody's going to come. Nobody left. You know what I mean? That's how you know the traditions are meaningless.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? Because the people are still there, right? And so we're gonna see this over and over again. We're gonna have people clinging to meaningless traditions, and then when you ask them why, all they're gonna be able to do is point to the past and say, it's not that we were racist, it's just what we've always done,
It's what
right?
we've always done.
And somehow all of the institutions at the root of it, there's always separation, racism, and ultimately keeping somebody else out, right? So, we got to call it what it is. So I'm not going to listen, whether they can exactly prove it or not. Listen, we know, that the roots of it are shameful, right? So would they defend that? No. So they're not going to defend the shameful roots of it, but what they're going to do is try to lean on, but it's what we've always done, right? A meaningless tradition. So,
Something for us to continue to monitor as a story. I'm hoping that it continues to gain momentum and gain attention with the NAACP and the students that are on campus, because my heart goes out to the students at our campus, the student, the African American students, because it's become a pretty hostile environment. They mentioned it in the article that
right.
even students that didn't have anything to do with the complaint are getting treated harshly, right? Or it's become a really hostile environment for them, and I'm hoping that this continues to gain more attention and more awareness, so other people throughout the country, students, because they do have the power. Like, little do they know, because they're bringing in the revenue, like these student athletes are coming in, they're the ones who have more control, right? Because if they're not coming, then guess what? Then it becomes a quote unquote issue. So I hope that they continue to remain steadfast with this complaint, and that it continues to, gain some more steam. So we'll see,
Yeah, I mean, and hopefully they do, man, because see, the thing about technology, again, we talk about positives and negatives, right? Is that the eyes of the world could be on this, in an instant. All
Mm-hmm.
you need is one student with a phone and 1,000 followers, and it's on,
So
so everybody has to be careful. So it can work out good for you and bad for you, but you just gotta, make sure like certain things, especially when you're dismissing people outright, right? And we're talking about things like a hostile learning environment.
yeah.
You know, um, think about all of these issues, and the reason why I'm kind of looking at it like that is because I'm thinking about all of the times we've been through it, like in different settings when the internet wasn't so popular, right? Issues that we had like in high school or different where you wanted to change different things, but technology has just made everything change. It has just made everything different, right? In terms of students and the power that they have.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just amazing, man. It's a good thing.
Absolutely. All right, so staying with the school aspect. So new laws in Illinois, Oregon, Utah, Arizona, Colorado, and Connecticut and Maine will
Okay.
allow students to take days off to deal and tend to their mental health. So this law will allow for 5 excused absences from school without the need for a doctor's note, beginning in January of next year. All right, so this law applies to all public schools and students ages 6 to 17. What are
Okay.
your thoughts about this?
Um, my thoughts are probably different than what you would probably think. You know,
Okay, give it to me.
um, I listen. It was a short article. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So I'm not gonna say I know everything about the policy, but I think it could have some benefits, and I do potentially have some concerns, right? So I guess let's start why it's beneficial. Obviously, it's beneficial because there's a lot of kids that are under, a lot of reasonable distress. Have real mental health disorders that have been diagnosed. They're going to therapy, they're in treatment, and they could benefit from mental health days, right? Um, because they could probably they do experience rough days. I'm talking children that have
Yeah.
actual diagnoses, right? Um, and I think this will reduce the stigma in terms of allowing them either with a note from their therapist or letting their parent kind of make the call in terms of how the child is doing, to stay home from school that day for a mental health day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, other than that, if we're not talking about children that have diagnosed mental health disorders, I have some reservations because I don't think you should call it a mental health day. I think you should call it a personal day. Same way we have personal days off from work.
Right.
You want to give every kid 5 personal days, give them 5 personal days. But parents can't make the call and be like, my kid is depressed today on Monday. It's just not appropriate. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so we're throwing, listen, and I'm being that guy when I say this, but we're throwing mental health around now the same way we throw stress and depression around and all these other words. Mental health isn't I'm sad. It's that you understand, because mental health could also be, you know what I mean? My kid didn't do his homework. You know what I mean? Mom, let me stay home and use one of the mental health days. Like, let's be honest. You understand what I'm saying?
That's good. Yeah.
So I think it could have benefits for children that have true mental health disorders. But but we'll know those kids most likely from their IEPs and from different things. But if you're just going to tell me you're going to give every parent 5 extra days, to have their kid not come to school, you're just creating more problems for the teachers, if we're being honest, because people are going to be extending their vacations with those days. I mean, maybe I'm all right. Now you tell me. You the parent, so you give me your explanation.
So absolutely. So it's good for individuals that already have the diagnosis, right? Because I feel like overall, this enables students to kind of get the care that they need, whether it's a situation where it's like, hey, maybe I need to see my therapist or I need to see my clinician, like in an emergency type of situation, or I need like a next day appointment. So
Right.
it allows them, for individuals that are already possibly in treatment, to get that, right? Allows them that day to do that. At the same time, I feel like it can also benefit people that don't have that don't have that diagnosis, because and I know sometimes these kids don't know what they're dealing with, right? They don't know maybe that, I've been feeling sad for a few days. I don't know what this is. I believe some of the precautions, or some of the things that they put in motion, is that um after the second mental health day,
Gotta
then
get
they
a
get
referral.
referred. Yeah, they get referred. So, yeah, now is that going to be foolproof for 100%? No, right? But I do like the sense that, okay, if Johnny has, they're using their second mental health day. Okay, now the school is kind of stepping in and saying, all right, we're going to contact the family, so maybe it's not just Johnny doing the mental health day, right? So they do make that call out to maybe mom or dad or whoever the caretaker is, and say,
Right.
hey, this is the second one that was used within a month, right? We want to know what's going on. One, did you okay this? Do you know that Johnny is taking his second mental health day, right? Because and I know kids listen, like, they stay home from school and tell the school like, oh, I'm taking the mental health day. Like, we
See,
know some people are gonna take advantage of it, right? That's
so,
just the
so,
way it works.
so that's why
So, like,
that's why I
we do
said
it.
what I said. That's why I
Yeah,
said what I
like,
said.
people are gonna take advantage of it, just like the same way how adults take advantage of sick days or personal days, right? They may call out sick and it's just like, yo, I got something else to do. That's
Right.
to their discretion. It's a situation I do like, at least if the school is putting a measure, say, hey, we're going to contact the family because the second one has been done or has been utilized. Let's see what's going on so we can offer some services. So one, everybody can be on the same page. And maybe it can be a situation where they can allow this person to get resources, right? So it's to say, hey, you use your second mental health day, what's been going on? And maybe this is providing an opportunity for the kid, because unfortunately, like we talked about in the beginning of the pod, suicide rates are up, man. Suicide rates are up 24% for kids that are like ages 5 to 11. It's up 31% from kids that are 12 to 17. This COVID situation has impacted them, and and I know that as kids are going back to school, like, there's a lot of anxiety, right? There's a lot of distress, there's a lot of uncertainty. So I feel like, okay, giving them this an opportunity where you are giving them some days to get that, I think it's a good idea. Are some people going to take advantage of it? Oh yeah, most definitely. I mean, especially the teenagers, not to kind of like throw shade at them, but yeah, like, if you give them an opportunity to take some extra days off, yeah, they're gonna do it, right? And they're gonna try to manipulate it, and all types of things. But if it's helping out of 10 kids, right? And you get maybe 3 that are actually going to use those mental health days to either get support or to reach out or what have you, then I think it's a win, right? Because when you're dealing with kids, kids are going to
Yo,
take advantage of it, man. But it's,
listen,
like that's just what they're going to do.
I'm gonna tell you what's gonna happen. They all gonna take their mental health day at the same time.
They will, yeah.
Yo, listen.
They're going to get group therapy. That's what they're going to.
The only thing I'm saying is this, right? I think it's a good idea, right? I just think it's a bad idea potentially as a like a blanket solution,
Right.
right? Again, I'm not saying I'm right because you pointed out some things I wasn't even thinking about, right? But I just feel like I don't know if the best way to start is to start with everybody, you know what I mean, and then sort everything out later, right? Because I think you can find yourself in a situation where a lot of people are using it for the wrong thing, and the statistics will tell you that the percentage of kids that are in that school system with a diagnosable mental health disorder may not warrant everybody getting 5 days for mental health. That's why I said at its core, even if it's necessary, I just think it's a mislabeling of what it is at its core. Call it personal days, right? Call it brain break days. You can call it whatever you want, but we wouldn't call it medical health days. Why? Because we know that would be what? Completely wrong, right? So to call it mental health days then comes into question. It's not unfair for us to question, well, what meets the barrier of a mental health day?
Right.
Right.
I think they had to call it a mental health day because and I know that thing wasn't gonna a bill like that's not gonna get passed. It's calling it a personal day for kids, right? So
I
and I know they have to put it in. I agree. Like mental health, like you said, if you just have a kid who maybe is overwhelmed, like you said, has a lot of, I don't want to say stress, but maybe it's just school related, right? They got a lot of assignments, they didn't get any sleep, and it's like, hey, because that happens, right? As a parent, my daughter had, went to a magnet school here in Philly, so like the workload and the that she received was sometimes overwhelming. There was a couple of days where she was like, Dad, like, look, listen, I got my stuff done, but I'm drained. Like I didn't go to sleep until like 3-4 o'clock in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, like can I go into school late, or can I not do this, or can I, I didn't get any sleep. Like, can I take a mental health day or such and such? And that was like to your discretion, like as a parent. Like I had to make it say, you know what, is she gonna be good going into school if she's falling asleep or anything, or is it cool for me to let her go in late? And I know that, you know what I mean, because I know what's been going on kind of in the context. So I feel like mental health, I think they're just kind of using it as an umbrella of like, okay, giving a person, like you said, a sick day, a personal day, a stress day for them to kind of recover from whatever's going on. But I think they're calling it, they had to label it or at least give it the title of a mental health day, because a bill like that's not going to get passed if you're just going to call it a personal day, right? Because of all the information, of all the research that goes into getting a bill passed, you have empirical data, right? You have all this research. It says, hey, students are suffering from X, Y, and Z, so they would benefit from having a day off, and then they can utilize it to do such and such. So like they're not gonna get no personal day, not no kid. Ain't no high school kids.
Listen, you ain't got to convince me about all the flowery language and all that they put on the stand, and all of the people that filled out self-reports and checked that they've been stressed while in school.
Yeah,
I get it, bro. You know what I'm saying? But I'm just talking about at the end of the day, we know, like, we gotta be careful. Like, language is very powerful, dog. And I'm just I'm being that guy, but I'm just saying it can be a slippery slope, because to one person, my mental health is I got a tummy ache, and another person is depressive symptoms. You know what I'm saying? So all I'm saying is, as for me, it's fine. It's fine, but I'm just saying it could be a slippery slope. You know what I'm saying? Because listen, man, we'll see.
You know what it is?
Listen,
they're gonna have to really be diligent as far as the schools that are enforcing this, right? Because
Because how do you handle this during final exams?
That's what I'm
I don't
saying.
study for my final exams.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
No,
they're
no,
gonna
no, no,
really
no, no. Because
that's
so
what
I
they're
don't
gonna have
study
to
for
be
my final
diligent.
exams, mental health day, right? And then see the parents aren't gonna have a problem until it seeps into their house and they come up to their kid's room and be like, I need to talk to you about your behavior. And they're like, Dad, I need a mental health day from you.
That's what I'm saying. It's
Yo, you
gonna
see
be.
what I'm saying?
That's what I'm saying, man.
Listen.
Look, I hear you. Like, the kids are gonna
Nah,
use.
you don't hear me.
No, I hear you, because they're gonna utilize it in any form or fashion that they can.
Yeah, man.
Like, the majority of them, I don't want to say the majority, but a good portion of them are, right? They are. So this is why it's gonna really fall heavy on, like you said, a lot of things sound great in theory, right?
Right.
Because they have good intentions, right? The ideal and the theory is beneficial.
Yeah.
However, you're going to have some people that are going to use it for whatever type of, benefit they can use it for that has nothing to do with mental health. And so this is where it's going to be difficult. And this is what they don't talk about, or they're not taking this in consideration of the people who are going to have to enforce it. Right. Talking about the school, talking about the parents. Right. So it's just like, oh, you're just going to give them 5 mental health days. And then, like you said, there's no criteria. Right. So that, it's going to be tough. But this is why I said it's going to be the diligence is going to fall on the school and on the parents, because how do you maintain it? Like, after you do the first one, how diligent are you going to be on saying, hey, this kid took a second day? Like, do they need to be evaluated, or what happens, or do they lose the next 2 or 3 days because they so, like, it always sounds great, like you said, in theory, when you're doing the bill and you get it passed, but they're not thinking about the people that actually have to enforce this, right? You're not thinking about the teachers, the parents, and kids is crafty, man. Like, yo, they're definitely.
It's funny because the example you came up with is like, it's like the perfect example. And I don't mean like, because it's true. I know it's true. You know what I'm saying? But when you said it, again, like, that kind of brought me back towards the middle, because I'm like, okay, what you're saying makes perfect sense, right? Because there's a lot of parents, I'm sure, that on a Sunday night or maybe on a Monday night, they seen their kid up all weekend or whatever, a lot going on, and they're like, all right, well, he could use a break, or she could use a break, and I get that, you know what I'm saying? So that's one thing we got to consider too. But I'm just looking at the other side in terms of, like, when we start calling everything mental health, like, certain stress isn't necessarily a mental health disorder.
It's a part.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
it's a part of it. It's a part of being a student anyway.
Right. So it's like, at some point, the extremes to this. So we can't teach our kids also that I got a presentation tomorrow, mental health day. You understand? Or
that's what I'm saying. Like, because, like, you brought up a really good example of finals, right? Like, as a school, do you put things in order or in place to be like, oh yeah, by the way, no mental health days during finals? Like, that's what I'm saying. So they can pass the law, but it's like, what about the intangibles, right? How do you put these little things in place to make sure kids are gonna definitely try to manipulate it, but, like, all right, what corresponds to this? And also, even as a parent, like, you got to know your kid. Like, now you got to be even more aware of, like, yo, is this kid just trying to get over, like, was he upstairs, like, is he just trying to, like, stay home the next day because he was doing it? Like, it's tough. Like, it's a good bill, and I think it's like the intentions are well, and it could definitely work for those few people that are already diagnosed, that need that appointment. For some people that, like, you know what, they need a day to get evaluated, to get those services. But it doesn't take in consideration the folks that are gonna be like, yo, listen, I'm about to use this. So it's tough, because I feel bad for the teachers. I feel bad for the school of how they're gonna enforce it. And,
well, listen,
it's gonna be dope. It's gonna be tough, man.
Don't feel bad for the teachers just yet, because they done opened up Pandora's box. So you think the students are gonna get 5 days, and you think that teachers union isn't gonna be gunning for five mental health days for the teachers?
Listen,
teachers gonna need their days too.
Yeah.
So,
This is what happens when bills like this get passed. Like, they're good intentions, but now the domino effect, right? How do you enforce it? And now other teachers and other different things. Yeah, you're right. Not to say that teachers don't deserve mental health days, because they have stress and they're dealing with, they have diagnoses. They're people too. But again, it's how do you enforce it? I don't know.
Good luck.
See. But yeah, I mean, it's good. I'm happy that states are starting to consider, and because this does this is one of the important steps in challenging the way society approaches mental health issues. So,
But
it's great across the board. I hope more states do this, but I feel like there's definitely need to be more conversation about how are we going to go about enforcing this so it doesn't,
you're absolutely right.
you know.
And at the end of the day, like you and everybody else listening should disregard part of my opinion because I'm just.
No, it's
No,
real
I'm gonna
because
tell you why.
I know how I would have been at. Hey, listen, give me 5 mental health days when I was in high school.
And that's my whole point. Because part of me, brother, is hating because I'll never get a mental health day.
Yeah. Listen, you know what I would have, you know what I could have done with 5 mental health days.
We would have all been like, listen, we're going down to the shore. We're gonna all take a mental health day Thursday and Friday.
We're hitting South Street up on this mental health day, guys. We need this.
Yeah.
We did.
Yeah,
so,
man.
So it'll be interesting to continue to watch how this spreads across the U.S. and but it's good. Anything pro mental health is good. That we're for. Jay, before we get out of here, anything else?
Not really, man. Of course, we just want to thank everybody who took time to listen, especially to the end, and comment, like the videos. We appreciate you, and we're gonna keep the content coming. So thank you.
Absolutely, couldn't have said it more or better myself. All of the streaming platforms that we're on. We're on YouTube, of course. So continue to subscribe, guys. Continue to listen, like Jay said, and give us that feedback. And we will see you again next time. Again, episode 26, guys. The Black Psychologist Podcast. Appreciate everybody listening. Jay, talk to you soon, my friend.
All right, bro. Later.